Peter Ouspensky and I share a birthday, the 5th of March. So I want to do this reading in honor of Peter Ouspensky and to help celebrate my own birthday. So the following is written by Peter Ouspensky from The Psychology of Man's Possible Evolution. Ouspensky writes, I shall try to explain how consciousness can be studied. Take a watch and look at the second hand, trying to be aware of yourself and concentrating on the thought, I am Peter Ouspensky. I am now here. Try not to think about anything else. Simply follow the movements of the second hand and be aware of yourself, your name, your existence, and the place where you are. Keep all other thoughts away. You will, if you are persistent, be able to do this for 2 minutes. This is the limit of your consciousness. And if you try to repeat the experiment soon after, you will find it more difficult than the first time. This experiment shows that a man, in his natural state, can with great effort be conscious of one subject, himself, for 2 minutes or less. The most important deduction one can make after making this experiment in the right way is that man is not conscious of himself. The illusion of his being conscious of himself is created by memory and thought processes. For instance, a man goes to a theatre. If he is accustomed to it, he is not especially conscious of being there while he is there, although he can see things and observe them, enjoy the performance or dislike it, remember people he met, and so on. When he comes home, he remembers that he was in the theatre, and certainly he thinks that he was conscious while he was there. So he has no doubts about his consciousness, and he does not realize that his consciousness can be completely absent while he still can act reasonably, think, observe. For general description, man has possibility of 4 states of consciousness. They are sleep, waking state, self-consciousness, and objective consciousness. But although he has the possibility of these 4 states of consciousness, man actually lives only in 2 states. One part of his life passes in sleep, and the other part in what is called waking state, though in reality his waking state differs very little from sleep. In ordinary life, man knows nothing of objective consciousness, and no experiments in this direction are possible. The 3rd state, or self-consciousness, man ascribes to himself, that is, he believes he possesses it, although actually he can be conscious of himself only in very rare flashes, and even then he probably does not recognize it, because he does not know what it would imply if he actually possessed it. These glimpses of consciousness come in exceptional moments, in highly emotional states, in moments of danger, in very new and unexpected circumstances and situations, or sometimes in quite ordinary moments when nothing in particular happens. But in his ordinary or normal state, man has no control over them whatever. As regards our ordinary memory or moments of memory, we actually remember only moments of consciousness, although we do not realize that this is so. What memory means in a technical sense, and the different kinds of memory we possess, I shall explain later. Now I simply want you to turn your attention to your own observations of your memory. You will notice that you remember things differently. Some things you remember quite vividly, some very vaguely, and some you do not remember at all. You only know that they happened. You'll be very astonished when you realize how little you actually remember, and it happens in this way because you remember only the moments when you were conscious. So, in reference to the 3rd state of consciousness, we can say that man has occasional moments of self-consciousness, leaving vivid memories of the circumstances accompanying them, but he has no command over them. They come and go by themselves, being controlled by external circumstances and occasional associations or memories of emotion. The question arises, is it possible to acquire command over these fleeting moments of consciousness, to evoke them more often and to keep them longer, or even make them permanent? In other words, is it possible to become conscious? This is the most important point, and it must be understood at the very beginning of our study that this point, even as a theory, has been entirely missed by all modern psychological schools without an exception. For with right methods and the right efforts, man can acquire control of consciousness and can become conscious of himself, with all that it implies. And what it implies we in our present state do not even imagine. Only after this point has been understood does serious study of psychology become possible. This study must begin with the investigation of obstacles to consciousness in ourselves, because consciousness can only begin to grow when at least some of these obstacles are removed. In the following lectures I shall speak about these obstacles, the greatest of which is our ignorance of ourselves and our wrong conviction that we know ourselves, at least to a certain extent, and can be sure of ourselves, when in reality we do not know ourselves at all, and cannot be sure of ourselves even in smallest things. We must understand now that psychology really means self-study. This is the second definition of psychology.